The Dallas Morning News. October 30, 2010. Opinion, Student Voices. Why Am I Singled Out? By Tejal Suri, a senior at Parish Episcopal School in Dallas. They say the first meeting is the most important when you try to develop a relationship with someone. But what if that person has a preconceived perception about you? Given its tough history with racism, America and its citizens have suffered. As a result of racism, dreams have been shattered. Lives have been taken. And while such history has proved what shameful qualities racism can bring out in human beings, many people believe that because times have changed, so have characteristics and views. But racism is still alive. It has simply taken on a new name and face, racial or social profiling. Being an immigrant's child of Indian descent, I thought I would have experienced racism much earlier in my life. However, I was brought up in an environment where people accepted me for who I was. My classmates played sports with me regardless of my skin color. Friends invited me to family gatherings, and families accepted me regardless of my religion. But things changed after September 11, 2001. The change didn't occur as much in school as it did in the outside world. On September 11, 2001, I was an innocent third grader who wasn't sure why she was being sent home but was sure glad to skip the history lesson and get out of school. I would have never guessed that 9 years later, as a senior on her way home after visiting colleges in New York, I would be considered one of them at John F. Kennedy International Airport. A few weeks ago, a 5'8" white male security guard approached me as I bundled my jacket and shoes onto the security X-ray. He asked me to step aside and held my hands up as he roughly swiped them with a white, square-shaped paper. He still wasn't satisfied. A few minutes later, as my dad walked through the scanner, he too was, randomly, selected to step aside to be abruptly patted down and searched. We missed our flight and had to wait 3 hours for the next direct flight to Dallas. Looking back, I think I simply was living in a private school bubble. I never really did experience the outside world aside from occasional trips I would take to the grocery store with my mother. The bubble life now behind me, I have started to think about my skin tone and how that shade of brown may affect me for the rest of my life. The reality is that the effects of 9/11 will never end. Earthquakes and terrorist attacks have aftershocks. The difference is that the aftershocks of 9/11 have gone on 9 years and counting. Am I always going to be looked at differently? Will my boss disregard my abilities to accomplish a task simply because of my skin tone? Can people really not distinguish between a Middle Eastern terrorist and a young Indian woman? While pondering such questions, I do get a bit frustrated, not because I can't answer them yet, but because I don't see the logic. I am of a different religion, speak a different language, grew up in a completely different environment and have very different views on multiple topics than the terrorists whose actions hurt so many. I am as different from them as any 5'8" white male. So, why me?